Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Today we're not telling an ordinary story. No, we're taking you through a story that shook the hearts of millions in Egypt. The story of a girl who was like an angel, full of kindness and simple dreams. But unfortunately, her life was stolen in the most brutal way on a day that was supposed to be a celebration. This is the story of Basant Abdelnabi, a girl from Abnub in the governorate of Asyut, whose life ended on Sham el-Nessim in 2024 at the hands of the very person who was supposed to protect her. We'll walk you through it step by step, from the very beginning of Basant's life until the moment her heart stopped beating. This story isn't just a tragedy. It's a lesson for each and every one of us. A reminder to think 1,000 times before we allow our daughter's dreams to be shattered. Get ready, because this story will touch your hearts and make you reflect on every decision you've made, or will ever make. And before we start our story, don't forget to like and share the episode so it reaches as many people as possible. Without diving into too many details just yet, let's go deep into the heart of our story. Basant Abdelnabi was born in June 2007 in a small village in the Abnub district of Asyut Governorate. From a young age, she was a remarkable girl, like a rose, beautiful inside and out. Her kindness made anyone who met her instantly love her from the very first word. She lived in a family made up of her father, Abdel Rahman, her mother, Fatma, and 5 siblings. 2 sisters, Mariam and Noor, and 3 brothers, Ahmed, Mahmoud, and Youssef. Basant was the eldest daughter, and that made her feel a strong sense of responsibility from a young age. She was always helping her mother around the house, cooking, cleaning, or taking care of her younger siblings. She would take them out to play in the street to keep them away from the tension at home, and she'd tell them bedtime stories to help them fall asleep happy. But life in Basant's home wasn't easy. Abdel Rahman and Fatma were constantly arguing. Their fights would start over small things, like school expenses or who was going to buy something for the house, and would escalate into shouting and insults. Abdel Rahman worked as a construction laborer and was always under pressure because the money was never enough. Fatma tried to manage the household with very limited means, but that pressure made her tense and quick to yell over the smallest things. Even though Basant was still just a child, she could feel everything that was happening. She would try to calm things down, going to her father and saying, "It's okay, Baba, we'll figure it out," or telling her mother, "Don't worry, Mama, I'll help you." She became like a mediator between them, but that put a weight on her far beyond her age. In 2015, when Basant was 8 years old, the problems grew worse. Abdel Rahman started spending more time away from home because of work, and Fatma began to feel like she was raising the kids alone. Basant helped her mother with everything, even tasks too difficult for her age, like going to the market alone or helping with laundry. She would study with her younger siblings and tried to make them love school as much as she did. But the constant tension at home affected her deeply. Sometimes she would sit alone in her room and cry, but she never told anyone. She dreamed of the day when her family would be happy and at peace. In 2019, when Basant was 12 years old, Abdel Rahman and Fatma started talking about separation. They tried to delay the decision for the sake of the children, but the constant fighting became unbearable. Basant would hear them arguing and would try to step in. One time, she said to her mother, "Mama, why are you always upset? We just want you both with us." But Fatma would reply, "You're still young, don't worry about it." In the summer of 2022, after years of tension, Abdelrahman and Fatma decided to separate for good. Abdelrahman traveled to the Gulf to work in Saudi Arabia, and Fatma stayed behind to raise the children on her own. Life became extremely difficult. Fatma relied on a small pension from her family and help from the neighbors. She did her best to provide food, clothing, and school expenses for her children. Basant, who was 15 years old at the time, became like a second mother in the house. She would wake up early to help her mother prepare breakfast, go to school, and come back right away to help with housework. She cooked, cleaned, and helped her siblings with their studies. Sometimes she would help neighbors with small errands, like picking up things from the market, just to earn a little money to support her mother. Fatma always said, "Basant is the reason I kept going. If she hadn't been by my side, I would have collapsed a long time ago." Basant always tried to keep laughter in the house, even if she was hurting on the inside. She'd tell jokes to her siblings or make them their favorite food, like fried potatoes, just to make them happy. Basant was a girl with big dreams despite her young age. She loved school and was always among the top in her class. She dreamed of going to university, to study nursing or education, and worked to help her mother and ensure her siblings could complete their education. She loved drawing and would make little handmade gift cards for her mother and siblings on birthdays and special occasions. She loved animals and often fed stray cats in the street. One time she brought a kitten home, but her mother told her they couldn't afford to care for it, so she had to let it go. The neighbors saw her like one of their own. They would say, "Basant is a girl made of gold, always helping, always smiling." But like any 16-year-old girl, Basant dreamed of love. She used to watch Egyptian romantic movies and imagine the day she would live out a love story like those. And that's when her life started to take a dangerous turn. In September 2023, Basant was 16 years old, and she had started drawing the attention of the young men in the village. She was beautiful, respectful, and quiet, and that made her stand out. Among those young men was one named Walid, 23 years old, from the same area where she lived. Walid lived a troubled life. He used drugs, like hashish and tramadol, and often got into fights with people. He had problems with his friends and was known for causing trouble. One time, he got into a fight in the street and slapped someone just because he didn't like the way the person looked at him. The neighbors were afraid of him because he always carried a weapon, a knife or a blade. His parents, Mahmoud and Samia, knew that Walid was out of control. Mahmoud himself had a criminal record for drug-related offenses and had been in and out of prison. Samia tried to control Walid, but she couldn't. Walid worked odd jobs, 1 hour at a mechanic's shop, another at a grocery store. But he had no stability. His family thought marriage might settle him down, so they encouraged him to consider getting engaged. When Walid found out that Basant's parents were separated, he saw it as an opportunity. He saw Basant as a quiet girl he could control. In October 2023, he began trying to get close to her. He would walk past her house and try to talk to her if he saw her on the street. At first, Basant ignored him because she didn't like talking to boys, but Walid was persistent. In November 2023, he told his parents, "I want to propose to Basant." His parents were surprised and said, "Walid, you're still young. You don't have a house or a stable job." But Walid insisted, telling them, "I don't want anything from you. Just come with me to propose." Despite knowing that Walid wasn't a good person, Mahmoud and Samia agreed, thinking marriage might change him. In December 2023, Walid took his father, Mahmoud, and his mother, Samia, and went to Basant's house. When Fatma saw Walid and his family, she immediately felt something was off. His way of speaking was arrogant, and he talked as if he was trying to force himself into their lives. His family spoke in a way that felt uncomfortable, and it was clear they just wanted to get the proposal over with quickly. Fatma thought to herself, this guy can't be trusted, and there's something strange about his family. But she didn't want to judge without proof, so she told them, I'll speak with Abdul Rahman and get back to you. Abdul Rahman, who was in Saudi Arabia, wasn't familiar with the village situation. When Fatma called him, he said, if you think he's decent, I agree. But ask around first. After Walid's family left, Fatma gathered her children and told them, I'm not comfortable with Walid or his family. There's something not right about that boy, and I don't approve. But Maryam, Basant's younger sister, who was 15 years old, said, Mama, let's ask around about him first. Maybe he's actually good and we're just misunderstanding him. Noor, the other sister who was 13, agreed with Maryam and said, she's right. Let them get engaged and have a period to get to know each other. If we feel he's not suitable, we can break it off. Ahmed, Basant's older brother, who was 14, said, I'm with Mama. That guy doesn't seem right. But Maryam and Noor insisted that the family should at least ask around about Walid. Fatma, although she still didn't feel comfortable, said, okay, we'll ask. I just don't want to be unfair to Basant. Maybe my feeling is wrong. Fatma and her children started asking around about Walid. They went to the neighbors and people in the village and asked about his family. And unfortunately, as often happens, people painted a good picture of him. They said that Walid was a respectful young man and that his family were good people. Even some of Fatma's relatives said Walid is great and his family are kind folks. But the truth was different. Walid was known for using drugs and causing trouble. He had gotten into fights with people in the village and once stabbed someone with a knife during an argument. The neighbors were afraid of him, but no one told the truth, either because they feared him or because people often avoid speaking honestly about such matters. When Fatma heard that people were saying good things about him, she said, all right then, if that's what people say, let's give him a chance. And in January 2024, the engagement took place at Basant's house. It was a joyful day in the village. The family held a small celebration, and neighbors came to congratulate them. Basant wore a white dress and was laughing from her heart. She felt like she was starting a new life, and that Walid would be the one to make her dreams come true. Walid acted like a prince. He brought her small gifts, like flowers or chocolate, and told her about his plans to get a good job and build a home for them to live in together. Basant, with her kindness and innocence, believed him. She told her friends about him, saying, Walid loves me so much, and he really cares about me. She was happy and felt like she was living a love story just like in the movies. But that happiness wasn't meant to last. After 2 months, in March 2024, Basant began to discover the true face of Walid. Walid was insanely jealous of her. If she went out to buy something for her mother from the grocery store, he would yell at her and say, Who told you to go out without my permission? If she stood on the balcony looking at the street, he would mock her and say, Why are you standing like that? Who do you want to see you? If he called her and she didn't answer, he would go to their house and fight with her. At first, the fights were just words, but over time he started raising his hand on her. He would hit her with a pen or push her with his hand. Basant would come home crying and tell her mother, but she would say, maybe he's upset or stressed. She tried to justify him because she still believed he loved her. The neighbors could hear Basant's screams every day, but they would say, these are normal things between a fiancé and his fiancée. No one really intervened, which made Walid feel like no one would stop him. Fatma started to fear for her daughter. At the end of March 2024, she went to Walid's family and complained about him. She told them, Your son is treating Basant badly. He hits her and yells at her in front of people. I will not allow this. Mahmoud and Samia said, We will talk to him, and if we are not satisfied, we will cancel the engagement. But Walid, when he found out that Fatma had complained, got even angrier. He went to Basant's house, yelled at her and her mother, and said, "Who do you think you are to go complain about me?" Fatma tried to calm him down, but he insulted her and left. Basant was scared, but Walid, after every fight, would come to apologize. He would bring her small gifts, like a teddy bear or a flower, and say, "I love you. I didn't mean it. I'm just jealous of you." Basant, with her kindness, believed him and forgave him, but she felt like she was living in a prison. The fights increased, and Basant became psychologically exhausted. She would cry alone at night, telling herself, "I was wrong to agree to him." But she was afraid to break off the engagement because she didn't want to cause trouble in the village. She felt that if she ended the engagement, people would talk about her, and she didn't want that. At the end of April 2024, the situation became unbearable. On April 10th, 2024, Basant was standing with her friends in the street talking normally. Walid saw her and, without thinking, hit her with a pen in front of people and pulled her hair. The people around were shocked, and some tried to intervene, but Walid shouted at them, "She's my fiancée, and I can do whatever I want." Basant felt ashamed and hurt, went home crying, and told her mother, "I can't continue with him. I want to cancel the engagement." Fatma hugged her and said, "My daughter, you are my daughter, and your life is more important than anything. We will end this matter." The next day, April 11th, 2024, Fatma called Walid and told him, "There's no fate between us. That's it. Everyone should go their own way." Walid went crazy. He yelled, insulted Basant and her mother, and said, "You won't live in this place after you leave me." Then he hung up on her. A few hours later, he went to their house, shouted, and hit Basant in front of her younger siblings. Fatma tried to defend her daughter, but Walid also insulted her. The neighbors heard the fight and intervened, telling Walid, "Enough, she doesn't want you." Fatma gave him his phone and belongings and said, "That's it, this matter is over." As Walid was leaving, he threatened Basant, saying, "I will kill you. I won't let you live." Everyone thought it was just the threat of an angry man, but Fatma was very scared. She felt that Walid might do something terrible. On April 15th, 2024, Fatma decided to go to Walid's family to complain about him. When she went, she found out that Mahmoud was in prison on a new drug charge. Samia, Walid's mother, said, "We can't control Walid. He doesn't listen to us, and we thought marriage would fix him." Fatma got upset and said, "How can you interfere in people's homes knowing your son is like this? Do you think girls are toys?" Samia didn't know how to respond but said, "We're sorry, but we don't know what to do." Fatma returned home upset and told her children what had happened. Basant was scared and told her mother, "I don't want to leave the house. I'm afraid of him." Fatma tried to calm her down and said, "Don't be afraid. We are with you, and he won't be able to do anything." Walid was a completely lost young man. He smoked drugs like hashish and tramadol and spent all his money on those things. He fought with his friends and once hit someone in the street because of a look he didn't like. He always carried a knife and threatened people if anyone upset him. The neighbors were afraid of him and said, "Walid is dangerous. People should stay away from him." But his family knew he wasn't good, and yet instead of helping or treating him, they decided to arrange his engagement, as if marriage would fix all his problems. Unfortunately, the one who paid the price was Basant. On Monday, May 6, 2024, it was Sham el-Nassim. This day is considered a celebration for all Egyptians. People go out to the gardens, eat colored eggs, salted fish, fasik, and pickled herring, ringa, and enjoy the weather. Because Fatma saw that Basant was psychologically exhausted, she suggested they go out for a walk. She told her daughter, "Let's go to the park and change the mood. You need to be happy a little." Basant was very happy, put on a new dress she had bought a while ago, and told her mother, "I'll go down and wait for you in front of the house until you finish." Fatma said, "Okay, I'll be with you in a few minutes." Basant went down and was standing in front of the house, smiling and looking at people walking by on the street. She saw children playing and felt like she would finally forget her worries. But after a few moments, Fatma heard her daughters scream. She rushed down and found Basant lying on the ground, soaked in her blood, and Walid holding a knife, running up the stairs to the roof. Fatma screamed and tried to lift her daughter, but Basant was slipping in her blood. The neighbors gathered at the sound, and a few of them chased after Walid and caught him on the roof. The police arrived quickly and arrested him. Basant was taken to the hospital, but unfortunately, she had already passed away. The forensic report said she was stabbed 15 times, 7 times in her back, 3 in her forehead, 3 in her abdomen, and 2 in her arm and leg. Walid wanted to finish her off by any means. Every stab was full of hatred and rage. The police investigated Walid, and the neighbors testified that he treated Basant terribly throughout the engagement period. They said, "Every day we heard her screams, and he used to hit her in front of us." Even Walid's friends testified that he threatened Basant after she broke off the engagement, saying, "I will kill her if she leaves me." Fatma was in shock. Her daughter, who was her whole life, was gone in a moment. She sat next to Basant's body at the hospital, crying and saying, "I should have listened to my heart from the start." The whole village was in mourning. People went to offer condolences to Fatma, saying, "May God have mercy on her, she was like an angel." Strangely, Walid's family, instead of feeling guilty, tried to negotiate with Fatma. In June 2024, Samia and Walid's brothers, Karim and Hassan, went to Fatma and offered her money to drop the case. They told her, "We will give you a large amount, and we will settle this matter." Fatma, despite her grief, refused and said, "My daughter's right is not for sale. I want justice." Walid's brothers, seeing that Fatma was determined, even went so far as to break the marble on Basant's grave in the cemetery as a threat. They also sent her threatening messages on the phone, such as, "If you don't drop the case, you will live in hell." Fatma reported them, and the police arrested Karim and Hassan on charges of threatening and vandalizing the grave. The case went to court, and in March 2025, the court sentenced Walid to death by hanging. The verdict was like a breath of hope for Fatma and the family, but it wouldn't bring Basant back. People in the village talked about the sentence, saying it's the least he deserves. But at the same time, some people blamed Basant's family, saying if they had listened to Fatma from the start and hadn't agreed, Basant might still be alive. Words like these hurt Fatma even more because she was already blaming herself. She said, "If I had refused from the beginning, my daughter would still be alive." Basant was a girl with simple dreams. She wanted to live a peaceful life, help her mother, and build a future for herself and her siblings. She dreamed of growing up, working, and making her mother proud. But she fell into the hands of someone unworthy of being called a human. Her story must be a lesson to all families. They must ask carefully and trust their feelings if they sense something is wrong. They must protect their daughters from those who might destroy their lives. And for every girl, she must beware of those who show her fake love. True love doesn't hurt, humiliate, or make you afraid. Basant is gone, but her memory will live on in the hearts of everyone who knew her. She was like a star, lighting up every place she was in. This story is very hard, but it must be told so many people learn from it. We must think carefully before trusting anyone with our daughters and know that true love builds, not destroys. May God have mercy on Basant and reward her youth in paradise. And with that, today's episode is over. If this is your first time watching the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to get all the new updates. See you in a new episode. Goodbye.